Some pistols are expensive because they're genuinely better. Others are expensive because the logo, reputation, and marketing convince you to stop asking questions. I learned that the hard way. One of the pistols on this list made me feel regret before I even left the store. Another shot beautifully, ran perfectly, and still wasn't worth what I paid. That's what makes overpriced handguns dangerous to buyers. They don't always fail. Sometimes they work just well enough to make you defend a bad purchase. And in 2026, that problem has gotten worse. Premium carry guns, tactical packages, metal frames, optic cuts, upgraded triggers. Every feature adds another excuse to raise the price. But once the excitement wears off, only one question matters. What did that extra money actually buy you? These are 5 pistols that cost far more than the value they deliver, plus one bonus gun that turns buyers' remorse into a full-time argument. Last month, I finally admitted the Glock 43 XMOS wasn't the simple carry bargain everybody promised. I bought it because it sounded finished. Slim frame, optic-ready slide, trusted name, pay once, mount a dot, move on. That was the idea. Then real ownership started. The factory sights felt temporary. The optic setup needed another plate. Factory magazines gave me enough capacity, but not enough to stop looking at aftermarket options. Then came a different holster because the first one printed. Then another because the second one dug into my side during long drives. By the time the pistol felt properly sorted, that affordable Glock had quietly turned into a project. And the carry experience never fully paid me back. In Texas heat, the grip kept shifting against thin shirts. I caught myself adjusting it all day. The draw was usable, but not effortless. My hand had to hunt for that narrow grip, just enough to make fast practice feel inconsistent. Nothing failed. That almost made the regret harder to admit. The 43 XMOS works. But overpriced doesn't always mean unreliable. Sometimes it means buying a supposedly complete pistol, then spending more money fixing every little reason you don't love it. When I replaced mine, I felt relief. That's a bad sign after paying Glock money. 19 days. That's how long the Wilson Combat SFX9 made the price feel justified. For those first couple of weeks, I opened the safe just to look at it. The fit was ridiculous. The trigger broke so clean, it made ordinary pistols feel unfinished. Everything about it whispered that this was what $3,000 craftsmanship was supposed to feel like. Then I took it out on a filthy range day. Wind blowing grit across the bench. Cheap ammo. Sweaty hands. Timer screaming. I ran the SFX9 beside a carry pistol that cost me a fraction of the price. The Wilson shot flatter. The trigger was better. The controls felt more refined, but the cheaper gun stayed right there. Same drills, same distances, same practical hits. The gap was real, but nowhere near large enough to explain a price around $3,200. That's where the honeymoon cracked. The SFX9 is absolutely better than most carry pistols. The problem is that it costs far more than that advantage is actually worth. You're paying heavily for refinement, exclusivity, and craftsmanship that most shooters will never convert into meaningful real-world performance. Worse, I started treating it like a status symbol instead of a tool. I sold mine at a loss, and the next pistol proves that sometimes tactical is just another expensive word for unnecessary. The FN509 tactical exposed itself in the most ordinary place possible. I was standing in line, barely paying attention, when I adjusted my shirt for the third time. Not because the pistol was heavy, because the whole package refused to disappear. Tall sights, threaded barrel, optic-ready slide, long grip. Everything that looked impressive in the case felt louder under a thin shirt. That night, I stood in front of the mirror and tried to make the purchase make sense. Sit, stand, turn, bend, reset the holster, pull the shirt down again. It concealed, technically, but carrying it felt like managing equipment instead of living normally. That's the problem with the 509 Tactical. You're paying extra for a suppressor-ready package, optic hardware, elevated sights, and the word tactical, even though most buyers will never use half of that capability, often enough to justify the premium. At the range, it ran fine. Recoil was manageable. Accuracy was solid. Nothing dramatic happened, and that made the answer clearer. The FN509 Tactical is not a bad pistol. It is an expensive collection of features that many owners admire more than they actually use. Add the cost of extra magazines, and the value gets even harder to defend. The next pistol is even worse, because almost everyone knows it's impractical before buying it. Honestly, I bought the Desert Eagle with the kind of confidence that only comes from a famous name. It felt safe. Not practical, not sensible, but safe. Everybody knows it. Everybody wants to shoot one. I figured I could enjoy it for a while and move it later without getting hurt. Then it sat. Every range trip, something else made more sense. The Desert Eagle meant heavier gear, expensive ammo, more attention, or setup, and less actual shooting. Owning it was exciting. Using it regularly was another story. So I cleaned it, took a few good photos, and listed it. The messages came fast. Still available. Any trades? Then came numbers so low I thought they were jokes. One guy offered 2 pistols I didn't want. Another asked about payments. A third promised cash that night and disappeared. That's when the value problem became obvious. The Desert Eagle has a massive audience that loves the idea of owning one, but a much smaller group willing to pay real money for it. You're paying heavily for the icon, the spectacle, and the reputation, not everyday usefulness. When a serious buyer finally showed, I took the loss. The gun never failed me. The price did. And the last pistol hurt worse because I knew it was overpriced before I even left the counter. Earlier this year in Austin, the Staccato C2 sat in that foam like it had already won the argument. The clerk was waiting. My buddy was behind me. Another guy leaned against the counter watching the whole thing. Card in my hand, I felt the warning before the receipt printed. This is stupid. Not because the C2 was bad, because I knew exactly what I was buying. Performance, yes, but also status. Walking away felt like admitting I couldn't afford the upgrade. Buying it felt like proving something. So I nodded. The gun was excellent. Fast trigger, flat recoil, easy accuracy. It made average shooting feel better than it deserved. Then, the rest of the bill arrived. Extra magazines cost too much. The first holster wasn't right. The second was better, but still not perfect. Every scratch felt personal. I started carrying it differently, checking it more, protecting it like jewelry. That's when the real value problem showed up. The C2 is better than many cheaper carry pistols. But for most people, it is not thousands of dollars better where it actually matters. You're paying heavily for refinement, prestige, and the 2011 experience. I knew it wasn't worth it before I left the store, and I still bought it. But the bonus pistol proved something worse. Sometimes the market regrets your purchase before you do. The Staccato C2 taught me that a pistol can feel exceptional and still cost more than its real-world advantage is worth. The SIG P320 AXG Legion taught me something uglier. Sometimes the market sees the bad value before the owner does. I walked into the shop carrying it like something premium. Metal frame, Legion branding, compensated slide. The kind of pistol that sits around the $1,200 to $1,500 mark and makes you believe the market will respect what you paid. The guy opened the case, looked at it for half a second, and gave me a number. It wasn't even close. No excitement, no special treatment. To him, it was still another P320 wearing an expensive suit. I almost started explaining the upgrades, the balance, the trigger, how flat it shoots, all the reasons this one was different. Then I stopped because that was the trap. A pistol worth its price shouldn't require a closing argument. The AXG Legion feels excellent and performs well, but the premium is difficult to recover because the market sees the platform before it sees the package. You pay metal frame money, then discover that much of that extra cost disappears the moment ownership changes hands. Nothing was wrong with the pistol. The deal was wrong. And that may be the clearest sign of an overpriced gun. You spend more time defending what it cost than enjoying what it does. If one of these pistols made you angry, good. That probably means you understood the point. This wasn't a list of bad guns. Some of them shoot beautifully, some are reliable, a few are genuinely impressive. But none of that automatically makes the price reasonable. Overpriced is when the logo costs more than the performance, when the upgrades never stop, when a cheaper pistol does the same job, but admitting that feels worse than defending the purchase. And that's where buyer's remorse gets expensive. You don't just lose money, you start protecting the decision. So tell me which pistol you defended the longest before finally admitting the value wasn't there. And which one should have made this list? I'm Steve. Buy what earns its price, not what makes you explain it.